An hour before the wedding was set to begin, my fiancé Liam ran away. Sophia is hurt and needs me. The wedding is delayed. I watched his hurried departure with a cold sneer. Delay the wedding? Impossible. After all, with a different groom, the wedding could still go on. The next day, my wedding of the century exploded across the internet. Liam was both shocked and furious, asking his friend, "There's no groom, so where did this wedding of the century come from?" His friend replied, "There is a groom, it's just not you. What should we do?" The groom took a call and just left. With only an hour left until the wedding, Liam suddenly vanished. Silence filled the waiting room. Everyone held their breath, looking at me. I, too, looked at myself in the mirror, dressed in full wedding attire. To marry him, the wedding planner and I had spent 6 months meticulously preparing. Today, I'd woken up in the middle of the night, spending 6 hours getting ready. I thought I would surely be the most beautiful bride. But escape turned all our preparations into a joke. What should we do about the wedding? The wedding planner's voice trembled. I sighed, about to speak, when my phone suddenly rang. It was Liam's exclusive ringtone. I lowered my gaze and tapped to answer. Liam's apologetic voice came through. "I'm sorry, Evelyn, something urgent came up." I expected to be angry, but I wasn't. I was calmer than ever, so calm it was as if I wasn't the one who had been abandoned. "Then what about the wedding?" I threw the question back at him, word for word. Liam was silent for a few seconds before saying, "I'll have my assistant inform the guests that the wedding is postponed until tomorrow. Can you explain it to Grandpa, okay?" Postponed until tomorrow. Such a trivial thing to say. I let out a soft laugh. Is anything more important than a wedding? Let me guess, could it be? Before I could finish, Liam cut me off. "Sophia is my sister. She's not feeling well, and I can't ignore her." What a self-incriminating remark. But I have to ask, does any sister have rumors of an affair with her brother flying everywhere? The moment she says she's scared, he drops a multi-million-dollar deal to be with her. The moment she says a ring is beautiful, he makes his fiancée give up her engagement ring. The moment she says she has a headache, he abandons his fiancée mid-wedding dress fitting to take her for a checkup at the hospital. Now, for her sake, he even wants to postpone the wedding. This isn't a sister. This is clearly the apple of his eye. I, his fiancé, had become nothing more than an obstacle to their being together. It was truly pathetic. My smile slowly faded. "In your heart, I'll never have priority, will I?" Liam instinctively wanted to deny it. "No, it's not." But for some reason, his words trailed off. Both of us remained silent. I waited no longer for Liam's explanation. I also didn't tell Liam that I had received a text message last night. "Evelyn, this is Sophia. I won't wish you a happy wedding, because tomorrow's wedding won't go smoothly. Liam and I are childhood sweethearts with the best relationship. As long as I'm hurt, he'll never abandon me, even on your wedding day. Let's make a bet. If I win, you'll cancel the wedding." I knew Sophia's schemes well, but I never truly cared about them. What I cared about was only Liam's attitude. One oversight, I chose to forgive. 2 deviations, I began to doubt. But as the scales of choice continuously tipped towards Sophia, I finally saw through his indulgence of his childhood sweetheart, and his indifference towards me. I lost completely. My eyes were a little red, but I desperately held back the tears. Fortunately, it wasn't too late. Let's end everything today. End these 3 years of daily suspicion, end the days of being repeatedly abandoned. I took a deep breath. "Liam, our engagement ends here, let's break up." In our 3 years together, I had never thrown a diva behavior. The entire elite social circles of Viridian City knew that I was madly in love with Liam. So much so that I carefully restrained my emotions, not daring to get angry, not daring to suggest breaking up. No matter how many times I was given the silent treatment, how many times I was abandoned, I would always be the one to apologize. Fearing he wouldn't accept my apology, I would even cling to him like a doormat, wagging my tail to appease him. So when I uttered the words "break up," Liam was silent for a few seconds. And when he spoke again, his voice carried an undeniable hint of suppressed anger. "I admit I shouldn't have left before the wedding. I can understand if you're upset. But you shouldn't joke about canceling the wedding." Even through the phone, I could picture the expression on his face as he said those words. His brows were tightly furrowed, his thin lips pressed together, and his eyes burned with fury. Normally, I would have apologized and agreed to his previous suggestion of postponing the wedding until tomorrow. But now, I only found it absurd. Even now, he didn't think he had done anything wrong. He actually thought I was joking. "Sophia is injured and needs surgery. I have to be with her. You're an understanding girl. Liam's voice rang out again. Each word struck my heart like a heavy stone. Don't be childish, okay? If you don't want to do it tomorrow, then let's just postpone it for now. I'll come back and marry you after Sophia's surgery. His words were devoid of any affection, his tone as rigid and businesslike as if he were settling a merger. I didn't answer. Everything around me fell into a deep silence. Then, a sweet, cloying call suddenly came from his end. Liam, I'm in so much pain. I heard Liam's breathing visibly tighten, and his tone instantly softened. Just lie still, I'll be right there. The call ended. My best friend, who was supposed to be my bridesmaid today, turned pale then flushed with anger. Does even want to marry you? How can he not tell what's important? So many people in Viridian City are watching this wedding. He just ran off like that. Tomorrow, you'll be the laughingstock of the entire city. Yes, our two families were to be united by marriage, but Liam had run away. I could already imagine the gossip and rumors the Luo family would face after the wedding. Grandpa had already been infuriated by Liam once before and was still bedridden. That time, Liam had merely defended Sophia a few times at the engagement party, and Grandpa had been so overcome with anger that he collapsed. Now, he had outright run away from the wedding. How could he accept his precious gem, whom he held in the palm of his hand, being hurt again and again? I had to be stronger. I couldn't let Grandpa be provoked anymore. And I absolutely couldn't go back to him. I gripped my phone tightly. The wedding continues. My best friend looked confused. The groom isn't here, how can it continue? I gave her a reassuring smile. You all go out and prepare. I'll arrange the rest. As everyone left, I picked up my phone again and found an uncalled number in my contacts. Soon, the call connected, and a deep, magnetic male voice asked, "Who is this?" I took a deep breath. It's me, Mr. Ethan. Do you remember saying you owed me a favor, and that you'd do anything I asked? His voice was calm and indifferent, unwavering like a still lake. Aren't you getting married today? Do you still need me? But listening closely, the slightly stiff tone and the inappropriate pause revealed that he was trying to maintain his composure. At this point, I had no retreat. So I cut straight to the chase. I'm missing a groom. Perhaps I was asking for too much, as Ethan fell silent. In the quiet, I felt a pang of panic. I quickly offered another condition, that plot of land on the west side for one ceremony. Is that enough? Silence again. Just as I thought it was hopeless, his voice finally came through, wait for me. Then a muffled thud sounded on his end, and the call was immediately disconnected. On the plane, Ethan hung up the phone and instructed his assistant, turn the plane around immediately. 11:58. The wedding ceremony began. In the banquet hall, the lights suddenly dimmed. The heavy doors before me slowly pushed open. The venue was decorated romantically and beautifully. Soft drapes floated mid-air, adorned with softly curved string lights, like countless stars, yet vibrant as fireflies. I slowly walked down the red carpet. The end of the red carpet was empty. The bride had appeared, but the groom was nowhere in sight. The guests below looked on, ready for a show. I heard the groom ran away. Evelyn is going to have the wedding alone. How humiliating. How could the Luo family raise such a useless girl? I heard Grandpa's old illness flared up recently wasn't true. He actually fainted because of that kid from the Pei family. And look, even after all that, Evelyn was still determined to marry Liam. Tisk, well, Evelyn deserves it now. I couldn't refute their mockery. After all, reaching this point was indeed my own doing. Just as the jeers grew louder, the heavy doors opened again. A man in a perfectly tailored, handmade suit strode in. His coat tails flew, as if a storm had swept through, his powerful aura daring no one to look directly. The diffused lighting made his normally cold face appear incredibly soft. To everyone's stunned silence, the man came before me. Evelyn, I've come to marry you. The guests below widened their eyes. They whispered amongst themselves. Who is he? You don't even know him? He's the CEO of Jiang, the ultimate bachelor. Whoa, Ethan? He's even better looking in person. Seriously, does that even matter? The crucial thing is, how did he become the groom? Evelyn is pretty impressive. The groom dares to run away, and she dares to swap him out. Liam's friend suddenly snapped back to reality. What's going on? Omion had been trying to call Liam, but couldn't get through. A few minutes later, he received a text message from Liam on his phone. Sophia is hurt and hospitalized. Wedding postponed. Lucas, I'm sorry. Please apologize to the brothers for me too. The man raised an eyebrow and held up the text for everyone to see. See, that's what's happening. Just because of that, Evelyn is going to marry another man? Can't she just accommodate Liam? The speaker was Liam's childhood friend, Caleb. From the very beginning, he had secretly looked down on Evelyn, finding her indecisive and prone to clinging to Liam like a persistent shadow whenever there was trouble. Lucas put his phone away and glanced indifferently at Caleb. If it were you, would you be willing to have your wife abandon you repeatedly to go find the man she likes? Caleb's face darkened, he was somewhat annoyed but choked into silence. After a long moment, he blurted out, "She wouldn't dare." As the atmosphere grew tense, someone timidly asked, "So, are we still attending the wedding?" Lucas replied, "Of course, we are. After all, we still represent our families. What's more, if the groom had been replaced by Ethan, then this wedding was even more essential to attend. In fact, it could be considered a step up for them. If was a prodigy in their circle, then Ethan was an admired figure. While their peers were just starting university, he was already working in his family's conglomerate, simultaneously pursuing master's degrees in economics and law. While their peers were just joining their family businesses, he had already topped the list of the youngest Chinese billionaires. Below the stage, minds churned with different thoughts, while on stage, the wedding continued in an orderly fashion. Watching slowly slide the ring onto my ring finger, I couldn't help but feel a little dazed. Liam had once put a ring on my finger, too, but the very next day, he had given it to that childhood sweetheart. I had jokingly asked Liam if wanted my wedding dress, would you give it to her too? Liam had frowned and replied, how could that be? The wedding dress was custom made for you, she wouldn't fit into it. I pressed on, what if she wanted you? What had Liam said then? What, having second thoughts? Ethan's calm voice sounded above my head, and I suddenly snapped back to reality. It was my turn to put the ring on him. I looked again at the wedding ring on my ring finger, then shifted my gaze to the man. His cool eyes were like water, deep within them stirred an indistinguishable emotion. For the first time, I truly felt this man's powerful aura. At this moment, I couldn't back out. I let out a shaky breath, took the ring, and placed it on his ring finger. My hand was about to pull back, but Ethan held it firmly. Just then, the officiant's voice boomed at an inopportune moment, "Okay, now the groom may kiss the bride." My heart tightened. I was just having Ethan pretend for a bit, it didn't need to be this real. And there was a rumor that he doesn't show interest in women, this kiss might even be his first. My face showed some difficulty, maybe we should. But before I could suggest skipping this part, Ethan leaned down, his cool lips met mine. A firm hand cupped the back of my head, preventing me from retreating. The crisp scent of mint lingered around my nose, and I felt a little stunned. The scent abruptly receded, and I heard Ethan's soft chuckle in my ear. It's too late to back out now, Mrs. Ethan. After the wedding, Ethan and I returned to the lounge together. Thank you for being willing to help me. Ethan sat on the sofa, his long fingers toying with the wedding ring on his ring finger. He completely ignored my gratitude. In such an atmosphere, the words I was about to say died on my lips. Mr. Ethan, could you help me deal with my family again? Was this sentence really so hard to say? I prepared myself mentally, trying several times. But I still couldn't say it. Finally, I gave up, somewhat cautiously taking a seat nearby. I'd wait for a more suitable opportunity. Just then, Ethan's assistant entered, carrying 2 documents, followed by a man and a woman. Mr. Ethan, the documents you requested are ready. Mr. Ethan gestured for him to hand me the documents. Take a look. I took them, a little puzzled, and opened them to find the words prenuptial agreement prominently displayed. Prenuptial agreement? Prenuptial agreement. My hand trembled, and the documents nearly slipped. But a quick scan revealed I had misunderstood. Ethan was, after all, a businessman. In the contents, he had calculated all the gains and losses, even including the potential consequences that might arise after this wedding. I gradually calmed down. Ethan's voice was as indifferent as ever, although we're only pretending, you're aware that this wedding is currently the city's focus. For the sake of both our reputations, I think it's better if we maintain this marriage for 2 years. I closed the documents and looked up at him. Do we need to get a marriage certificate? The coldness in Ethan's eyes deepened. A marriage certificate protects basic spousal rights. Is there a problem? There was no problem, actually. I just remembered that due to Sophia's series of actions, Liam and I never had time to get our marriage certificate. It was fortunate we didn't, saving us a big hassle. I shook my head and replied, no problem. When do we go get it? Now. No sooner had Ethan's words fallen than the man and woman who had been standing silently stepped forward. Ms. Luo, we can process your marriage certificate right now. Goodness, they even had the staff ready in advance. Any other questions? No. I was in a daze the entire time. It wasn't until I held the freshly issued marriage certificate in my hands that I snapped back to reality. I was married. Not to Liam, but to a man I had met only twice. Once at a car accident scene 4 years ago, and once at today's wedding. Ethan put away the marriage certificate, stood up, and walked towards the door. I have work to do. They'll take you back to the villa. Then, as if remembering something, he stopped and turned back to look at me. Everything you might need in the villa has been arranged for. Don't bring anything you shouldn't. I immediately reacted, no, I don't. Ethan left me with a single sentence, I don't want to be separated right after getting married. News of my groom swap quickly reached Grandpa's ears. I rushed to the hospital, and before I could even explain, he smiled and comforted me. Sweetheart, a wedding is for yourself, not to meet others' expectations. As long as you're happy, anything you do is fine. Grandpa took my hand and asked again, Sweetheart, are you happy? I smiled, of course, I am. But as I turned my back, my smile slowly faded. What did happiness matter? It was nothing more than a transaction. In 2 years, Ethan and I would go our separate ways. The wedding video of Ethan and me was broadcast across the entire internet by the media that very day, sparking heated discussion. Liam was too busy taking care of Sophia to know. It wasn't until the next day, when Sophia was wheeled into surgery, that he finally called Lucas. Is she very sad? Did you try to comfort her for me? He rubbed his brow, his voice sounding tired. Lucas, sad? Not at all. Liam breathed a sigh of relief, then, still uneasy, pressed, was the wedding postponed? Lucas asked him, do you truly care about Evelyn? What do you mean by that? Of course I care about her. Once I'm done with things here, I'll definitely hold another wedding and make it up to her properly. There was a few seconds of thoughtful silence on the other end before Lucas said, Liam, Evelyn probably doesn't need you to reschedule the wedding. The wedding went on as planned, she just swapped grooms on the spot. Go online and take a look, the wedding video has gone viral. Liam's tone suddenly sharpened when he heard this. What did you say? Swapped grooms? How dare she do such a thing? Liam's aura darkened like ink, and a cold, sword-sharp fury raged in his eyes. But soon, he calmed down. Evelyn loved him so much, how could she marry someone else? Besides, when would she ever mature? A trick like swapping grooms was still too childish. He didn't even have to think about it, she must have paid someone to put on a show just to provoke him. Yes, that must be it. Thinking this, Liam relaxed. It looks like I'll have to really win her over this time. But is still in surgery, it'll probably be a few more hours. Before he could finish, Lucas interrupted him, the groom she swapped in, is Ethan. You know him. The implication was clear, Ethan wasn't someone you could simply hire with money. Lucas wasn't sure what Evelyn was thinking, but he could be certain that Ethan was serious. Liam froze instantly. Ethan? Viridian City's richest man, Ethan? How could that be? He didn't know when the call had ended. By the time Liam snapped out of it, he was already rushing out of the family waiting area. A nurse saw him and, assuming he was asking about Sophia, said, Miss Sophia just went into surgery, conservatively, it will take at least. Liam's unfocused eyes snapped into focus, and he reacted. I have an urgent matter and need to leave. Please take care of Sophia. The young nurse looked somewhat troubled, but Sophia will surely want to see you the moment she wakes up. Liam frowned. Are you telling me what to do? With that, he glanced at the nurse and strode away. After spending the night at the hospital with Grandpa, I returned home the next morning to pack my bags. I had moved out after graduating from college. My apartment only had 2 bedrooms and a living room, it wasn't large. But the money to buy it was earned by me, penny by penny, unrelated to the Luo family. Because of that, it gave me a genuine sense of belonging. I had just finished showering and I received a call. It was Ethan. Mr. Ethan. Ethan's voice, as indifferent as ever, came from the other end. Where are you now? I immediately became alert. Don't worry, Mr. Ethan, I'll be moving to your place today. Ethan paused for a few seconds, then added, the master bedroom is on the 3rd floor. The master bedroom? Did he mean for me to sleep in the master bedroom? I received his signal and nodded knowingly, understood. Hanging up the phone, I began to pack. Although I was very reluctant to leave my home, I had, after all, begged him to go through with this marriage. One still had to have contractual integrity. 2 hours later, I walked downstairs, dragging a suitcase with my right hand and carrying a bag in my left. I tossed the bag into the downstairs trash can without a second thought. Without looking back, I walked towards the community gate. Suddenly, my left hand was seized tightly. You threw all of them away? My heart gave a fierce jolt, and I turned back, ready to scold. But what met my eyes was a haggard face. It startled me again. I pulled free and retreated a few steps. Yeah, I threw them away because I didn't like them anymore. Is there a problem? Hearing my reply, a flicker of pain crossed Liam's eyes, but he quickly returned to normal. He changed the subject. Where are you going? I replied, home. Liam forced a smile, reaching out to take the suitcase from my hand. That's fine. Go stay at the Luo family home for a while. Once I'm done, I'll definitely compensate you with a grand wedding. I sidestepped his hand, my voice calm. There won't be a wedding. Liam's body stiffened, and his smile froze. Stop joking, okay? I told you, the wedding isn't cancelled, it's just postponed. Looking at the man I had loved deeply for 3 years, I only felt weary. How could I have loved such an arrogant and conceited person for so long? And I also said, we're breaking up. With that, I turned and left. Liam stepped forward and grabbed my arm, his tone turning angry. I don't agree. His grip made my arm ache faintly. Looking at his red eyes and the dark circles under them, I laughed inwardly. And I truly laughed out loud. Don't agree? What right do you have to disagree? You abandoned me for Sophia 3 separate times, you ran away from our wedding, you were the first to betray our promise. What, do you think I have to wait for you indefinitely? Liam, ask yourself first, do you even deserve me? Ethan was truly busy. After moving into the villa for several days, I hadn't even caught a glimpse of him, but I was quite content to be alone. That evening, I was idly sitting on the bed, video calling my best friend. When she learned that I had moved in with Ethan, she was incredibly shocked. So, you two are really doing this? Upholding my contractual integrity, I didn't reveal the fact that we would divorce in 2 years. My best friend had a mischievous grin. I told you he'd commit to you after you saved him. Didn't I tell you I was right? A man and a woman, alone in a room, kindling flames, entwined with each other, hee hee. My forehead instantly furrowed. I was about to say I hadn't even seen him since moving in. Just then, Ethan's deep, magnetic voice suddenly sounded from nearby. Kindling flames? Entwined with each other? My heart suddenly thumped. I quickly hung up the video call and turned around stiffly. Mr. Ethan, you're back. Ethan stood by the bed, impeccable in his suit, his posture tall and straight, his facial contours flawless. His tone was as cold as ever. Work is finished. Then, as if suddenly remembering something, he reminded me, we did get our marriage certificate, didn't we? I was a little confused. Ah, yes, we did. He subtly curved his lips. I don't think anyone calls their husband Mr. Ethan. I tentatively offered, then, Ethan? The man's brows relaxed slightly. He neatly organized his luggage and put it into the walk-in closet, then went into the bathroom. It wasn't until the trickling sound of water began that I realized something was off. He was taking a shower? He sleeps in this room too? The bright light overhead enveloped me, and my heart pounded. My best friend's words, a man and a woman, alone in a room, kindling flames, involuntarily echoed in my mind. Even though the marriage was fake, the marriage certificate was real, and had just specifically emphasized his identity as my husband. At this rate, he was going to. Just as my mind raced, the bathroom door opened. Ethan emerged, clad in only a bathrobe. His hair was still wet, water droplets running down his strands onto his chest, sliding over his abs, disappearing into his sensitive areas. My face red, I twisted my neck. Why did you come out like that? Ethan said calmly, I forgot to get my pajamas. And then added, I called you earlier, but you didn't answer. My face instantly flushed even deeper. I had been so lost in thought just now that I really hadn't heard him. Ethan slowly walked closer, and the ambiguous atmosphere intensified. My hands gripped the blanket tightly, my breathing short and shallow. Suddenly, my phone, which I had tossed aside, blared noisily. The screen showed a string of numbers, but I recognized whose number it was at a glance. Ethan watched me unmoving. Seeing I made no move, he took half a step back. Answer it. I shook my head, not answering. Almost a minute later, the ringing stopped. But only a few seconds passed before it rang again. Evelyn, avoiding things won't solve anything. If you truly want to end it, face it head on. Ethan's deep words came through, noticeably softer than usual. His words were like a strong tonic, firmly steadying my heart. I took a deep breath and answered. Evelyn. Before I could speak, his voice came first from the other end. I'm drunk. Can you come pick me up? The phone was on speaker, and his slightly whining voice was transmitted clearly to Ethan's ears. Ethan frowned slightly. Why? Ting for my reaction. I refused expressionlessly. Liam, look at what time it is. I need to sleep. Then I turned to Ethan, husband, turn off the light. Ethan smiled, all right. After that night, Ethan and my relationship escalated rapidly and completely broke down. He repeatedly blocked me at the company entrance, begging me to divorce Ethan and marry him instead. I only found it amusing. Liam, you truly have a way of shattering my worldview. Liam looked at me, his eyes brimming with such deep affection it almost spilled over. Evelyn, I love you. With that, his tears began to fall. In the past, I would have softened. But now, my heart was completely unmoved. Because now I understood. If someone in a relationship makes you lose yourself and your dignity, that person is simply not worth loving. I averted my gaze, walking away without a backward glance, leaving him with only one sentence, your deep affection? Even a dog would gag at it. When I got home, I told Ethan about it. Ethan said nothing, only acquiring a new identity, my driver. The next day, I heard some explosive news from my best friend. Liam got beaten up. I paused, then typed back, how badly, best friend, asterisk seems pretty serious. I have a video from the scene, take a look, asterisk the video was sent over quickly. I opened it. Accompanied by an obviously stolen voiceover, the shaky camera showed a man drinking heavily, burying his head in his sorrows. I heard this guy's fiancée ran off with someone else. Look, he's here drinking to drown his sorrows all alone. That man was Liam. He took a few sips of alcohol, then declared confidently to someone nearby, Evelyn will definitely come back to me. But he quickly deflated, but I've been so humble, why isn't she coming back? Doesn't she fear I'll actually give up on her? The person next to him silently patted his back. Liam slammed his glass down, how dare a doormat treat me like this? The hand patting his back paused. Liam was about to say more, he was suddenly yanked up by a force. Before he could react, he was punched in the face. His lip instantly bled. He fell to the ground, looking up at the newcomer. Ethan. He let out a low chuckle. What, did you just find out today that Evelyn is my doormat? Or are you feeling insecure? It seems you also know she doesn't love you. Ethan sneered, his demeanor calm and composed. I should thank you, actually. Otherwise, how would I have married her? Consider that punch me reclaiming the dignity that rightfully belongs to my wife. With that, regardless of Liam's expression, he turned and left. Behind him, Liam suddenly erupted, she's not your wife. Then he charged at Ethan. The two began to wrestle, and the scene quickly descended into chaos. The video abruptly ended. On the dark screen of my phone, my face was reflected. A single tear hung clearly on my cheek. I gently brushed it away. Oh, it wasn't water. It was tears. I actually cried. But why was I crying? I didn't tell Ethan that I had seen the video of him fighting. Whether it was out of gratitude or a twinge of guilt, I wasn't sure. I began to lavish Ethan with attention. Just as Liam had said, I really was a doormat, only now I was doting on a different person. Liam quickly noticed the change. That day, after dinner, we went for a stroll. We walked through the park, the flowers and grasses fragrant. Ethan looked at the distant sunset glow and slowly said, Evelyn, you don't need to deliberately try to please me. I stopped in my tracks, instinctively apologizing, I'm sorry. Ethan also stopped, frowning as he looked at me, why are you apologizing? Seeing me lower my head in silence, he sighed softly, what I mean is, you don't need to deliberately try to please me. Your authentic self is enough to captivate me. The real you is irreplaceable. Just like this sunset, it never deliberately chases anyone, it simply radiates its beauty, yet it attracts countless gazes. I looked up, my eyes a little red, and met his gaze. In that eye contact, I saw the sincerity and love in his eyes. I never understood the phrase, love yourself first, before. I thought by giving all my love to another, I would receive equal love in return. But that wasn't how it worked. Those who love you can tolerate your flaws. Those who don't love you find fault even in your breathing. To love yourself first, is merely to first learn to love yourself, to become complete and strong. That way, the love we give to others will be healthier and more lasting. Ethan reached out to wipe the tears from my cheek. Don't cry anymore, my little crybaby, or you won't look pretty. I laughed, then if you see me when I'm ugly, will you still be captivated? Ethan took my hand, Mrs. Ethan, I've already seen you at your most disheveled. 4 years ago, when we first met. I walked forward, following his steps. I couldn't help but ask him, 4 years ago? You weren't. Why have you never told me? Ethan raised an eyebrow, we have plenty of time ahead of us. If you want to hear, I'll tell you slowly. Thank you for watching today's story. If you enjoyed this video, Please give it a like and share it with your friends. We look forward to hearing your thoughts in the comments. Feel free to share your perspectives, and don't forget to subscribe to our channel for more exciting stories. See you next time.